I learned so much at these things.
Welcome to the A&P Professor. A few minutes to focus on teaching human anatomy and physiology with host Kevin Patton.
This is a special bonus episode with Kevin's unofficial guide to the HAPS annual conference. Welcome to a special bonus episode. I brought in our announcer, Aline.
Hi, Dad.
And our whole A&P Professor podcast orchestra. Well, thank you, Andres Rodriguez, who is our musical director.
Hey, is this going to take long?
Okay, that's enough. And we have a very special topic for you this time. It's Kevin's unofficial guide to the HAPS annual conference. And we'll get to that in a moment. But I do want to mention that being a bonus episode, you get bonus minutes. This episode is a little bit longer than the usual 20 to 30 minutes. Not too much longer, but a little bit longer. So bear with me. If you're in an app that shows you the show notes with active hyperlinks, you can link to some of the resources that I'll mention. And also, I want to mention that there are timestamps in there. So if you want to jump ahead to different parts of this, it's fine. And, here I'm adding bonus minutes just with this intro. So let's go ahead and get going. Welcome to Kevin's unofficial guide to the HAPS annual conference. And the first bit of advice that I want to pass along is you do not really need a guide to the annual conference. You're going to do just fine just walking in without any prior knowledge of what's going on, and just have an open mind and an open heart, and you're going to have a great time. And if you get lost anytime, just ask those of you around you, because they've been in the same boat at some point. And we're a very collegial group, so you'll have no problem whatsoever. Another thing I want to mention before we get too far here is that this is a completely unofficial guide, as the title states. The HAPS leadership doesn't know I'm doing this. This is completely underground. This is totally on my own. It's sort of like one user's review and tips from the outside looking in, sort of from the outside. And then I kind of want to get into why I think I'm the right person to give any advice to anyone coming to a HAPS conference for the first time about what's going on. Well, I've been going to every single HAPS annual conference since 1990, so I do have some experience with the HAPS annual conference over the years. Not only that, but I hosted the conference in St. Louis in 1995 and was on the host committee and the update organizer for the annual conference in 2005, also in St. Louis. And I've had a lot of other leadership roles and committee roles in HAPS related to both the annual conferences and the regional conferences. So I've been around for a while, and I've been on the inside as well as the outside, as well as the middle. And so I think I've learned a few things over the years, and maybe some of the advice I give you will fit with your own approach to things, and it might help you along a little bit. Depending on when you're listening to this, how far ahead of the annual conference you're hearing this, you want to make sure that you register. And if you're listening to this way in advance of the annual conference, you may notice when you go on the website to register that there is an early bird discount. It's really important, I think, to get in on that early bird discount, no matter who's paying for it, whether it's your institution or coming out of your own pocket or it's from grant money or whatever. Money saved is money saved. So take a look at that. It also helps the organizers to know early on approximately how many people they might think are coming. So if there's early interest shown, that is going to help a lot with planning, and the whole experience goes better for everybody when that happens. And the website, if you're not already aware of it, is hyperlinked in the show notes and on the episode page for this special bonus episode. Or just remember hapsweb.org. That's HAPSWEB.org. And that's how you get to the HAPS website. And just click on events and the annual conference and so on, and you get to the right place. And all of my comments here are directed to just your typical attendee. Exhibitors are very welcome and also become part of what's happening at the conference, and workshop presenters and update speakers and so on are also very much a part of the heart and the life of what's going on at a HAPS conference. But there are particular guidelines and policies related to those roles that you might want to take a look at, and that is also at the conference part of the hapsweb.org website. So make sure you look at those. One other thing I want to mention while we're talking about registering early is you also want to get your hotel booked early, because only a certain number of hotel rooms are blocked. And it's not a huge number, because we kind of, the HAPS organization is kind of on the hook if they don't all get, booked. And that's never really been much of a danger, but the organization likes to be conservative in that regard. So if you want the conference rate, make sure you book early so you can get the conference rate. Another thing that I want to get into very briefly is that you do want to get to know the HAPS staff. Feel free to call them or contact them through the website and ask any questions you have ahead of time. They're all very friendly and very helpful, and they've heard a lot of the very simple questions before, so don't think that you're the first one to ask something that you think should be obvious, but you just can't figure it out. So go ahead and do that. One sort of unofficial member of the HAPS staff that you'll hear people talking about is somebody named Skelly. Now, who in the world is Skelly? Well, Skelly is a cartoon character. Skelly is a cartoon skeleton, and Skelly is sort of the mascot of each HAPS conference, and sort of takes on the persona of the host community and host group for each different HAPS organization. But people talk about Skelly as if it's an actual person. And so if you're confused about who that is, it's not really real. But I guess to a lot of people, it's real enough. So I have a few tips for things to sort of think about before the meeting. And probably the biggest one is that there's usually an app associated with each annual conference. It's an app that you can download onto your Apple iOS device or your Android device. There are different versions of that app. Be sure to download the app and start looking around on the app, because you're going to find that it's going to be a very useful tool both before and after the conference, but also during the conference can be very, very useful. If nothing else, for communication, but also there are features in there to help you sort of plan out and pick which workshops you're going to. You can schedule your own events. So if you're meeting a group of people for lunch or dinner or something like that, you can schedule it in there and it'll give you a reminder, lots of different things. And I just looked at my app before I start recording this episode. And even though it's before the conference has actually started, actually quite a while before the conference actually starts, and there are already people that have downloaded the app and registered and are sending messages to one another. There are first-timers that are saying hello. There are old-timers like me saying hello. And it's a good way to kind of, again, get in the mood for the HAPS conference beforehand. And if there are any heads up about anything, maybe, I don't know, traffic issues, airport issues, something going on in the hotel that you want to be aware of before you arrive, then check on the app and you'll probably have people buzzing about those different things that might be useful to you. There's also a lot of info on the website that I just mentioned a little while ago. One of the things you can do in the app that I recommend is read up on the update speakers, just to get a feel for what they're about and what their topics are and what they're specialized in. So that once again, you're kind of getting in the mood of things, you know what to expect, and you're going to be prepared. There might be a topic or two that you kind of want to read up on a little bit, before you get to the meeting so that you are very well prepared for that update speaker, and maybe come prepared with some questions for that speaker if there's time for those at the end of the update seminars. And I'll tell you about the updates and how that's all laid out in the schedule in just a second. Another thing you can do in the app is get familiar with the workshops. You can also download the update speaker information and the workshop information from the website and either print it out or save it as a PDF or whatever, and start to look through them, because you want to get familiar with those so you at the last minute aren't choosing from this huge number of different workshops and like, which one am I going to go to, and so on. And you want to start narrowing down your choices, because my experience has been it's very difficult to pick one, because there's always so many really great workshops going on at the same time. And yet this is real life. We haven't tamed time travel, so we really do have to pick one. Now, something that I advise, and you can take this information or leave it. Well, you can take this whole podcast or leave it if you want, obviously. But one bit of advice I would like to give you is bring some business cards. That's one thing that most people forget to do. But and those people that do bring business cards often forget to have them in their pocket or purse or pack or whatever, so that they can actually give them out. I think a handy way to do it, the way I usually do it, is throw a bunch of them in the little pouch that's usually in the back of the name tag you get when you sign in and get your registration materials at the beginning of the conference. And the reason you want those is, especially when you're interacting with exhibitors, they might say, well, I'll send you a sample of this, or I'll contact you about that. I'll track down the answer, or the answer to the question that you have, and I'll get back to you. And instead of, writing all that information down, you can just hand them your business card and it's all there. And I like to use it for networking. That's one of the most valuable things that I get out of HAPS. One of many valuable things I get out of HAPS is all the many friends that I make and colleagues that I know that, they might be an expert in this or that. And a few years down the road, I might think, wow, I remember running into that person who's really good at this. I think I'm going to drop them an email or give them a call or whatever, and see if they can help me out with this or steer me in the right direction. And if I have their business card, if I've asked for their business card and gotten it and saved it after the meeting, now they're part of my contact list, and it'll be easy to track them down. Another question I get a lot from people who are getting ready for their first HAPS annual conference is what to pack. And let me tell you that if you've been to other scientific meetings before, the atmosphere at HAPS is a lot more casual. At least that's been my experience. So a lot of people will tell you, well, it's business casual. And business casual is just fine. You'll feel very comfortable and you'll fit right in if you're business casual. But I know a lot of people who come in their flip-flops and shorts and their t-shirt, and they fit in just fine too. And there are other people that come with a sport coat on. Sometimes I wear a sport coat only because it's sometimes a little chilly in the hotel. So for the first couple of days that are in the hotel, in the exhibit halls and update seminars and so on, you might see me in a sport coat, usually with a t-shirt underneath it, but a sport coat nonetheless. Some people come really dressed up, maybe a suit and a tie or a really dressy dress, and that's okay too. You'll fit right in, and no one will look askance at you. And my advice is just, use your own style judgment. Whatever you're most comfortable in, no matter what you do, unless it's like really, really extreme, it's going to be okay. So I think the norm is business casual, more or less. Maybe that should be our motto. One other thing I want to mention while you're packing things for the HAPS conference is leave room for extra stuff in your luggage, because sometimes there's going to be some great attendance prize that you win, and it's, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy, which is, oh my gosh, you're probably going to have to pay extra for that luggage. But other than that, there are probably going to be some things. Maybe you're going to pick up some t-shirts. Maybe you're going to pick up some items from the vendors. Maybe you're going to pick up some souvenirs. Maybe somebody's going to trade you some things. Maybe you're going to pick up some materials at one of the workshops and want to bring it back. So I would always leave a little extra room in your luggage. Also, be prepared for any kind of weather, because we've seen all kinds of extremes of weather at the HAPS conference, except snow. I don't think we've ever had snow, but as soon as I say that, it's going to happen. So do, bring lots of different kinds of layers that will help you out in any kind of weather. Also, pack your historic HAPS wear. If you're not a first-timer and you have a t-shirt, a hat, a lapel pin, any kind of HAPS wear that you have from a prior conference, bring it with you because people like to see that. As a matter of fact, it's a good conversation starter where I've been stopped when I've had a t-shirt on from a previous conference and they'll stop me and say, oh, I went to that conference. That was so good and this and that. And did I see you there? And blah, blah, blah. And oh man, it really is something. It really is a part of the culture of HAPS to do that sort of thing. And as a matter of fact, there's a group of regular attenders who often bring t-shirts from their home institution to the conference to trade with other people who have also brought t-shirts. So do that. It's another good networking opportunity, and it's kind of fun to trade t-shirts from other institutions with people you've made friends with at HAPS. So getting to sort of the overall organization of the meeting in terms of how it's laid out time-wise, ordinarily on the first day, before the first official day of the conference, there will be an evening reception, an opening reception. And a lot of people, especially people like me who are introverted, will kind of skip that and think, well, I don't know anybody yet, so I'm not going to go to the opening reception. What's the point of that? But do that. Please do that because that's the time where all of us old timers and HAPS shake the hands of the first timers and second timers and so on, and try to make you feel welcome. And it's where we see our old friends from many years coming back to another HAPS conference, and we get to visit with them and so on. There are alumni groups even and so on that kind of tend to gel, and move around in the meeting and so on. So definitely don't skip the opening reception. Then usually the first 2 full days of the conference are dedicated to the update seminar. So we'll have an update seminar, an extended break, another update seminar, extended break. Of course, there are lunches in there, and there's also a business meeting thrown in there, and I'll get to that in a moment. So that's when we all sort of meet in one gigantic room and have a special guest speaker, present something, and you'll already be familiar with those topics because you'll have read through them already from the materials that are available on the HAPS website or on the HAPS app. And that's the first 2 days. Oh, also in between there, during the breaks, you want to go to the exhibit hall because the vendors will be set up there, and I'll talk about them in a little bit as well. And then the next 2 days usually are often at the host institution. So there's usually buses set up to shuttle us out there, or you can go on your own. And that's where the workshops are. So they'll be on campus somewhere. And there will be short breaks in between and then an extended lunch break. And I'll talk more about what goes on in those lunch breaks later too. So opening reception, 2 days of seminars, 2 days of workshops, and there might be an optional field trip on an extra day afterward, but that's not really the main part of the meeting. And I'll talk about the field trips in a moment as well. So some advice for during the meeting. So during the meeting, there is going to be a lot of general networking. And I really, again, want to emphasize that is one of the key values of attending a HAPS conference is that all of the people you're going to meet and interact with, that's really what is going to give you the new life that you will have from attending a HAPS annual conference. And so definitely go to the opening reception. Another thing that you don't want to skip, if you are a first timer, then the very first morning before the first update seminar, there is a scheduled first timers breakfast, and you'll be told all about that when you register, and there'll be information in your registration pack, and definitely show up to that. I and other presidents emeriti are hosts of that. Now we're getting so many first timers at every meeting that other HAPS leadership has stepped in to help with us because we like to have one old timer at every table of first timers. so that we can welcome you personally and also answer any questions you have going into it. And so that you'll know an old timer, at least one old timer for the first time. You'll have met a whole bunch of us at the opening reception, but you'll get to know us better at that breakfast. And it's always good food. So if for no other reason, show up for that. And not only that, but you'll have met a bunch of the other first timers at that meeting and get to know the other first timers, because something I've seen happen over time is people kind of bond over when their first conference was, and they tend to form kind of a special close relationship with people who were also first timers at their first meeting. But if you're a second timer, we now have second timers breakfasts too. And so at the same time the first timers breakfast is going on, the second timers are there. I think it's because so many first timers wanted to come back for the first timers meeting the second time around, but they have that, and don't skip that either, because it's a good time to reconnect with your old friends, strengthen those bonds from last year when you were all first timers together. And the committee chairs and other HAPS and people very active in what's going on behind the scenes in HAPS in HAPS, and you'll be able to connect with them and get even more of your questions answered. One other thing I want to mention while you're doing networking, just in general, while you're at the meeting, is don't be shy about tagging along with people. If you don't have anybody to go out to lunch with and you see a group forming, say, hey, you guys going to lunch? You mind if I tag along? That happens all the time, and it would be very unusual for them to tell you not to. Now, occasionally there is, so don't get your feelings hurt if they're gathering certain people together for some kind of business meeting, either HAPS business or business with a vendor or some other organization they belong to or something like that. Because one of my schools, we actually in the past had some of our faculty meetings, our A&P faculty meetings during lunch at a HAPS conference. And so, yeah, we don't really want other people coming along for that, because you would find it boring and we would kind of feel uncomfortable talking about certain things that are going on in our own program with people that aren't in our program already there. So that sometimes happens, but mostly not. And people will be friendly about it. They won't shoo you away in a mean way. I've never seen that happen. I guess it could, but I doubt whether that would happen. So don't be shy about tagging along to lunch, dinner, going out for drinks, or just going out for a walk or whatever. And ask around if you want somebody to go on a morning run with you or something like that. If any of you are interested in Tai Chi, hit me up for that, because I'd be happy to share my Tai Chi time. Well, I'll share chai tea with you too if you want, but I'll share Tai Chi time with you if you want to do that. I love to do Tai Chi with other people, especially those that are doing a different style of Tai Chi than me, or even if you don't know what style you do, or if you want to learn a few steps in Tai Chi, I'll teach you some. And usually there's a participant list that's part of the registration packet. Dig that out and have it handy. That's what I always do. And as I meet new people, I check them off the list, and it helps me reinforce for me who I met, because I have a really hard time remembering names. I remember faces really well, remembering names not so well. And then going beyond that and remember what school are they from, or what company are they from? What part of the country or what country are they from? And so I can kind of double check all that and say, is this you? Because I want to check off on here. This is you. Okay, good. That's you. And then at the end of the meeting, I can kind of look and see all the new people that I've met. And that's the next bit of advice I have. And that is commit to meeting as many new people as you can. In the very early days of HAPS, some of the people that grabbed a hold of me and sort of shepherded me around and invited me out to lunch and so on, said, well, you are one of our new people for this year. And I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, every year, each one of us in a little group that finds each other at the HAPS conference, we always commit that each one of us will find at least one new person to bring along and invite along to what we're doing and introduce to other people in our little group so that they will have some early connections. Now, there are so many things going on at HAPS conferences that we don't really need to do that anymore, but I enjoy doing it. So if I'm coming up to you and saying, wow, you're a first timer, I'm going to check you off on my list and so on, you know what I'm doing. I'm meeting my commitment to meet as many new people as I can. at every meeting. So you might want to try that. It's a fun thing to do when you're at the HAPS annual conference. Now, when you're at Update Seminar, the exhibit hall will be open. And a lot of people who have never been to a HAPS meeting don't realize that the exhibit hall is not just for exhibitors. Of course, there are vendors set up there, and it's a good time to interact with the exhibitors, various textbook publishers and equipment suppliers and lab suppliers and, just all kinds of different exhibitors. A lot of surprises every year. People are like, wow, I never knew that was available. That's great. Sometimes they even have like little mini demonstrations and workshops going on in the exhibit hall, but everybody goes to the exhibit hall whether they want to go to the exhibits or not. Why? Because that's where everybody gathers. It's really the gathering place. Maybe we should call it that instead of the exhibit hall. It's the gathering place. And there are extended breaks that, with things going on like refreshments and different things, where people really are drawn to that area. And so you'll see lots of conversations going on and a lot of people moving from one conversation to the next and so on. So I strongly encourage you to go into the exhibit hall, even if you don't want to see any of the exhibits. So getting back to those update seminars, you definitely want to bring something that you can take notes with. Now, the usual policy is, and you'll want to check this at each HAPS annual conference, but the usual policy is that you cannot take photographs or make recordings or anything like that during the seminar unless you have prior permission from the speaker. And there are many reasons for that, but I think one good reason not to do that is everyone behind you will hate you. No, they won't hate you, but they'll be annoyed by you because you're going to be standing up with your iPad trying to take pictures of every darn slide. So if you want copies of the slides, then contact the speaker and ask them to send you a copy. Ordinarily, HAPS does not make that available on the HAPS website, but they do give you the contact information for the speaker, so you can contact the speaker and get that. But don't be taking pictures during the update seminar. That's my advice. You can make your own choice, but my advice is don't do it. And that's usually the policy, that you're not supposed to do it. So that's the update seminars. And then, usually it's the morning of the second full day of the update seminars. Before the update seminars start, there will be a HAPS fun run and walk. And there are a lot of people who like to run, like to walk around the city a little bit. And there will be a course laid out. And we also use it as a fundraiser. So, toss in a couple of bucks or so if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. And go ahead and join folks for the HAPS Fun Run. And then we have usually, again, on the second day of update seminars, the first slot isn't an update seminar, but it's a HAPS business meeting. And I really strongly encourage you to go to the HAPS business meeting for a couple of reasons. One is you get to hear about all the exciting things going on in HAPS, often from the people who are running those things. So if you want to know more about the HAPS exam, or about the HAPS learning outcomes, or about this committee or that committee, or this new project going on or that new project going on, this is where it all gets updated. And you really get a good feel for what's going on behind the scenes and in terms of the various supports and resources available from HAPS. And there also are occasionally decisions to be made by the members, like maybe a change to the bylaws or some new project that needs membership approval or something like that. So you want to be part of this dynamic organization that is HAPS. So don't skip the business meeting. Another thing that's going on during those first 2 days are the poster presentations. And there are at least two reasons why you want to spend some time looking at the posters. One is I've always learned new things, many new things, looking at the posters. And so you get some great ideas at the posters, and the poster presenters are there to answer questions that you have. A lot of good networking going on. And again, this is a handy time to have those business cards ready and hand them out so that you can make these connections that, like, would you please send me it? Here's my card. Would you send me a copy of your poster? Would you send me a copy of whatever it is that you're talking about in that poster, and so on? And that sort of leads to the second big thing, and that is all these great conversations that you have, not only with the poster presenter, but then usually there's all these side conversations that get struck. You might say to the person next to you, oh, yeah, I tried that once. The other person, well, really, what's your experience with that? And you have a new friend all of a sudden, and you probably want to give them a business card. I had to start a business making, print while you wait business cards at the HAPS conference. I seem to be a real big cheerleader for business cards. If you see me at the HAPS conference, please do introduce yourself and tell me that you listen to my podcast. And also, ask for my business card. I'll give you one. And I'll ask you for one. Another big thing are those 2 days of workshops. And as I said before, I really encourage you to listen to what other people are saying about the workshops. Even sometimes I'm listening, like on the bus on the way to the campus, I'll be asking people like, have you heard anything about this presenter or that presenter? Or I'll be listening to other conversations going on nearby me and say, oh, really? You're going to that? Why are you going to that? And they'll say, oh, I've been to one of their other workshops and they're fabulous presenters. I'll now know more. I'll make a better, more informed choice than I would have otherwise. So listen to what's going on. And this is especially useful during lunch. During lunch, listen to what other people were going to and what they're looking forward to and so on, and you get good feedback that way. And take some notes, because I've learned some things at lunch that, oh man, that workshop is over. It's too late for me. And then I find out that person is giving a similar workshop the following year. And I look through my notes and say, yep, that is the person that I heard give such great workshops. So I'm going to go to their workshop this time. Even if it's a topic that isn't of particular interest to me, I know they're a good presenter, so I'm bound to learn something. And, the other thing, and I've mentioned this before, is have a backup or 2 or 3 backups, because sometimes you'll get to a workshop and there was a last minute cancellation because the person got sick or they had a family emergency or something like that. Or you'll find out that the room is so full, they're not letting new people in. And so you want to know right away what you want to go to next instead of flailing around and missing a whole session. So have several backups available. Also, or you might hear at the last minute that what you thought that workshop was about is not really about that thing that you think it's about. And you might think, oh man, I don't really want to do that. I want to do something different. You'll have a backup handy. And another thing that I've done before that can work really well is if there's a group of people that you're sort of hanging out with, that you're all from the same institution or the same city, or you just like to hang out together or whatever, and there are several workshops that you all want to go to, you might want to split it up and say, well, I'll go to workshop A, you go to workshop B, and third person go to workshop C, and see if there's some extra handouts that you can grab. And learn what you can, take good notes, and then come back and we'll regroup and we'll teach each other what we learned, what we got out of it. So that can help if there's more than one workshop you want to go to and you just can't get to it. And now is as good a time as any to mention Kevin's law about workshops and about professional development in general. And that is, if you learn just one thing that is very valuable to you in the whole conference, then it's worth it. And you can even apply Kevin's law of workshops or Kevin's law of professional development to each part of a HAPS workshop, and you won't be disappointed. If in every workshop I learn one thing, in every update seminar I learn one thing, then it will all have been worth it, because those all add up. And you'll have learned things so many ways at a HAPS conference. Just even in casual conversations, you will learn things. And I'm kind of well known among my friends for having a pocket full of index cards. And they're always, again, if you run into me and introduce yourself, then ask me about my index cards and I'll show you. I even have a fancy little leather wallet for index cards that I keep in my pocket. And because I'm always learning new things, and if I don't write them down, I forget them. So I walk out of every HAPS conference with a whole fistful, a whole deck of index cards that I can then go through after it's over. One other thing I want to mention while we're talking about workshops is usually on the workshop day, usually it's the first workshop day, but that sometimes varies, there are committee meetings. And these committee meetings are open to all members. So if there's a committee that you're interested in the work they're doing, or you might even have a passing interest in maybe someday joining that committee, go ahead and sit in on the committee meeting. You will be very welcome. And it's often during lunch, so sometimes people will bring their lunch. It depends on how it's scheduled for in that particular meeting, or sometimes it's right after the lunchtime. And go ahead and join in and see where the different committee meetings are being held. I strongly recommend you do that because at the very least, you'll hear about what's going on in a particular area of HAPS life. Another thing I want to mention while you're at the meeting, and actually you want to look into this before the meeting, is HAPS Institute, also known as HAPS-I. And what HAPS Institute is HAPS's professional development program where you can get graduate college credit for courses that sometimes happen outside of the HAPS meeting, but there are some HAPS-I courses that happen, at least part of them happens at the meeting. And so there'll be different special activities, maybe a lunchtime activity or maybe a workshop or maybe a variety of other things going on at the meeting. So look into that and you can get some graduate credit that might help with the credentialing you need for your promotion or accreditation or whatever at your home institution. Even if you don't need any of those things, those HAPS Institute courses are really fun and you really learn a lot. So I would recommend them just for that reason. There's also field trips that are often scheduled depending on the location of the HAPS annual conference. And a field trip might be to something local, or it might be something where you kind of get bussed out somewhere in the region of where the HAPS workshop is. But those are great learning opportunities too. Sometimes not necessarily tied strictly to anatomy and physiology. Sometimes it's a visit to the zoo or a birding trip out to a wildlife area or a museum trip or something like that. Often they do have to do with science in general, not necessarily anatomy and physiology in particular. Sometimes they do. But even if they have nothing to do with science or anatomy and physiology, they're great networking opportunities. Some good friends I first met on HAPS field trips. So take a look at those and consider doing that if your schedule and your budget allows. Then at the very end of the meeting, one thing I wanted to mention is at the end of the update days, the first 2 days, at the very end of the last update, there's a kind of a little gathering, a little get-together. But besides that, there are also attendance prizes, and the attendance prizes are sometimes really, really nice. So you probably want to be there for the attendance prizes, and you'll be given an attendance prize ticket usually. Sometimes they do it where they just pick a name out of the hat from registered people. Sometimes it's an official HAPS hat that they're picking the names from. So different ways that works. Ask at the registration desk when you check in about the attendance prizes and how you qualify for those. And you have to be there to win. If you're not there, if you just walked out of the meeting, too bad, or just walked out of the room, too bad, because you have to be there to win, usually. So after the meeting is over, something that you probably want to take some time to do. I haven't always done it, but I've regretted it when I haven't done it. And that is I pull out that list of participants and I pull out all of those business cards that I've collected, and I go into my LinkedIn account and I start requesting LinkedIn connections from those people. I go in and see who's on Twitter and I follow them on Twitter. I make sure that I get their email address and their phone number and so on in my contact list, so I update my contact list. And then I take all of that information that I've gathered and I organize it and I get it into some kind of file. I have a whole file. Well, actually, I have more than one file drawer now. I told you I've been going to these things since 1990. That was my first one, 1990 in Madison, Wisconsin. Gary Johnson was the organizer of that. And Gary Johnson, by the way, is still very active in HAPS, and he'll be at a lot of the HAPS annual conferences. So if you run into him, introduce yourself and said, Kevin said to introduce yourself because he's the guy that got me going in HAPS. Gary Johnson, Madison, Wisconsin. Anyway, update that contact list and really tend to your network when you get back, because that network is going to be very valuable to you. So I hope I'll see you at the next few HAPS annual conferences. Just one more thing.
Hey, is this going to take long?
The best way to listen to the A&P Professor podcast, also known as TAPP Radio, that's TAPP for the A&P Professor, is to use the dedicated TAPP Radio app in your device. We call it the TAPP app, and it's available for Apple iOS devices and for Android devices. But if you already use a podcast app installed on your device, then you can just search for the A&P Professor and go ahead and subscribe. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon, Alexa, Overcast, TuneIn. Oh man, there's just so many different ones. And I have instructions and even little buttons that'll get you right to the appropriate service. If you go to the approfessor.org and click on podcast and just go to the subscribe page and it'll walk you through it all. I sure do appreciate your support.
The A&P Professor is hosted by Kevin Patton, professor, blogger, and textbook author in human anatomy and physiology.
Opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily the opinions of the producer. Well, okay, they are my opinions, but I could change my mind at any moment.